It's November 30th, 2018. The Department of Justice just quietly released this late last night, 29th, saying that three senior executives at the defense contracting firm, ANIM is the name of this firm, have been charged with a scheme to defraud the U.S. military in connection with an $8 billion troop supply contract and with violating the Iran sanctions regime. There's also money laundering, international money laundering charges here as well. So we can look at the press release from the DOJ, but first, want to point out a connection between the three people charged and this company. So they name the three people charged, and they have a connection to several high-profile Democrats, other politicians. People named in these charges and this indictment is Abul Huda Faruqi, lives in Virginia, his brother, Mazen Faruqi, and Salah Maroof of also Fairfax, Virginia. So those three individuals, Abul Huda Faruqi is named in this article as a donor, a longtime donor, personally and through business. Mr. Faruqi has been donating to Democrats since the mid-1990s. During the 2004 Democratic primaries, he financially supported both John Kerry and John Edwards. In 2000, he gave at least $67,000 to the DNC, while his wife had also made a small donation, they note, to the Bush campaign, presumably to hedge their bets, the article says. Other big names as well. The Faruqis are longtime donors to California Senator Dianne Feinstein. Their neighbor, Feinstein is also their neighbor in Aspen, current member of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. This is an article back from 2013, so this company had been facing scrutiny for years, but they're just announcing these charges today. But in 2013, they pointed out Faruqi's named in today's indictment, also big donors, longtime donors to Dianne Feinstein, who is their neighbor in Aspen, who was the member of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, chairwoman and ranking member of the Senate Military Construction and Appropriations Committee for many years. Feinstein has attracted wide criticism, they point out, when defense contracting companies affiliated with her husband received favorable status and contract awards. They've also been generous to Virginia Congressman Jim Moran, whose election bids have been fraught with illegal donations from contractors, and who also serves on the House Defense Appropriations Committee. And with Feinstein, of course, there's been other scandals that have come out since then. This is from 2013, when they were already worried about this company and some of their connections. Obama as well benefited from Faruqi generosity with multiple contributions made in 2008. Before this company, ANIM was awarded another $8 billion, this exact contract, from the administration after his fraudulent business practices became a matter of public record. It was after it was already known, many of these fraudulent practices. And finally, the family's closest affiliation, they point out, is with the Clintons. Between 1995 and 2008, the Faruqi family members, including two associated with the same Unitrans International, this organization under scrutiny for the Iran transshipment, made at least 19 donations to Clinton-associated campaigns. Since 2005, Faruqi has participated in the Clinton Global Initiative, and during his presidency, Bill Clinton appointed him to the prestigious advisory board for Washington's Kennedy Center. Mr. Faruqi, DC power player, there's certainly, they go on, point out more connections as well in this article. I have both linked in the description, but look at the press release from today where they outline these charges that they've just announced. They're saying that three men were charged in an indictment returned November 27th for their roles in a scheme to defraud U.S. military contracts in Afghanistan, engaging in illegal commerce in Iran, and laundering money internationally. Their conduct was in connection to two multi-million-dollar contracts to provide supplies and logistical support to U.S. troops in Afghanistan. So the Assistant Attorney General, the Justice Department's Criminal Division, and other officials made this announcement. Abul Huda Faruqi, 75 years old, lives in McLean, Virginia. His brother, Mazen, of Boyce, Virginia, and Salah Maroof of Fairfax, Virginia, were each charged in an indictment filed in the District of Columbia with 2 counts of major fraud, 1 count of conspiracy to violate the restrictions on doing business with Iran, 4 counts of violations of those restrictions, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit international money laundering. The defendants have made their initial appearance yesterday on the 29th before Judge Harvey. All were arraigned and had pleaded not guilty. The next hearing, they say, is scheduled for December 6th. The indictment alleges specifically that Abul Huda Faruqi was the chief executive officer of Anam FZCO, a defense contractor based in the United Arab Emirates, which maintained offices in Dubai, the UAE, Jordan, and the United States. Mazen Faruqi, his brother, was the president and founder of Unitrans International Incorporated. That other group also mentioned in the other article connected to these Democrats as well. They call themselves an international logistics company. They also have close ties to Anam. The defendant, Salah Maroof, operated the company that procured goods and services for Anam as well. So according to the indictment, they say that on June 22nd, 2012, the U.S. Department of Defense had awarded Anam this $8 billion contract to provide food and supplies to U.S. troops in Afghanistan, known as an SPVA contract. As part of the bidding process, the defendants allegedly caused Anam to represent that it would build 2 warehouses in Afghanistan, which Anam would use to provide supplies to U.S. forces. That's what they said they would do in the contract. The indictment alleges that the defendants schemed to defraud the Department of Defense in connection with the SPVA contract by submitting bids that contained knowingly false estimates of the completion dates for the warehouses, and by providing the government with misleading photographs, staged photographs. They describe it. That's what the description sounds like. These misleading photographs intended to convey that Anam's progress on the warehouses was further along than it actually was. Specifically, the indictment alleges that in February of 2012, the defendants and others caused Anam employees to transport construction equipment and materials to the proposed site of one of the warehouse complexes to create the false appearance of an active construction site. Members of the conspiracy then photographed the site, provided the photographs to the Department of Defense, and then largely deconstructed the staged construction site. This contract also required bidders to certify that they abide by the Iran Sanctions Act, which prohibits U.S. citizens and companies from engaging in commercial activity in Iran. According to the indictment, the defendants, they say, conspired to increase Anam's profits in connection with the contract by shipping warehouse building materials to Afghanistan through Iran instead of using a more costly but legal path. According to the indictment, after learning that the Wall Street Journal was planning to run a story detailing this company, Anam's practice of shipping materials through Iran, it was after that Abul Huda Faruqi sent an email to a senior Department of Defense official, which falsely claimed that senior management at Anam had been unaware that the transshipments through Anam had taken place. They say, in addition to this contract, the indictment also alleges that the defendants schemed to defraud the Department of Defense with respect to the National Afghan Trucking contract, which has a $984 million contract that required Anam to supply trucking services to the U.S. military in Afghanistan. As with the SPVA contract, this second contract requires bidders also to certify compliance with laws concerning sanctions placed on Iran, according to the indictment, rather than ship trucks to Afghanistan using legal but relatively expensive paths. The defendants conspired to cut costs by transporting vehicles through Iran. Instead, the indictment alleges that defendants' conduct violated laws prohibiting fraud, commercial activity with Iran, and international money laundering. Charges in the indictment are allegations at this time. Defendants presumed innocent. They note just a legal note at the end of the press release. This is from the Department of Justice, and not seeing too many mainstream outlets reporting on this at all. They note in the DOJ's press release that Abul had tried to further cover this up after the Wall Street Journal had been partly trying to look into it, or it said that they were doing an investigation. They did respond to these charges, the announcement from the DOJ today. That's one of the few mainstream reactions I see to this. Seems like some pretty serious charges here, so definitely something to follow. We'll see how this proceeds in court. I will follow up with more details here. Let me know what you think in a comment. I do have a link to my Patreon account as well, patreon.com/realityreader. That's in the video description. Thanks everybody that's donated over there. A couple dollars makes a huge difference even. Also have a PayPal link. You can donate through there. Thank you again, everybody. And links to the original articles. I'll follow up soon. Leave a comment. Thank you.